I'm not sure this is working. There it is. It's working now. All right. Very good. I'd like to, before we begin the meeting, announce to everyone that Dr. Lester McCorn, who is the president of Payne College, submitted his resignation, I suspect because he's got a very large job and this was proving to be very time-consuming. But I am thrilled to introduce to you Steffi Robinson, who is going to take his place. Sheffy. Love that name. All right. Can Sheffie Robinson. And can I ask you to introduce yourself to your fellow committee members and tell them what you do?
Absolutely. My name is Sheffy Robinson. I am a Augusta native, born and raised here in, I think it's District 5 now. I am a business owner. I own a company in workforce and economic development that assists high school students with getting careers, and software engineer, clinical sociologist, and just really involved in Augusta as much as I can be. So thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thrilled to have you. Thank you. I got to tell you, Sheffy jumped right in. The first phone call, I said, all right, here's something we need some help with. And boy, she came up with just a heck of a suggestion. So we're very happy to have you and your energy here with us. All righty. I'm getting ready to pass a few things down the line. Ms. Bonner, while that's happening, can you call the roll?
Ms. Backus?
Ms. Backus is at a convention pre-planned in Orlando, will not be with us today.
Okay. Mr. Cody?
Present.
Ms. Cody, I'm sorry. Mr. Cole?
Present.
Mr. Coleman?
Present.
Mr. Fouché?
Present.
Mr. Pearson?
Present.
Mr. Powell?
Present.
Ms. Robinson?
Present.
Ms. Turnley?
Present.
Ms. Wilhelmy?
Present.
Mr. Wembley? Thank you. Madam Chair, we have everyone here except Ms. Backus. Ms. absent today.
Thank you, ma'am. Before we start, I wanted to thank everybody on this committee and Carl Vinson's patience with us. But what the public doesn't know is that everyone sitting up here now has probably put somewhere between 10 and 20 hours in of intense legalese reading in the past 2 weeks. We're about ready to commence a number of things, but I want to thank this committee for absolutely committing the time on behalf of this community to do it right on the front end. I am going to ask the committee in lieu of the fact that we have a lot of ground to cover today. I would respectfully ask that when the public speakers speak today, that we receive their information at the 5-minute mark rather than engaging in questions and answers. And the reason is, we're devoting so much time to public comments that we're not getting any work done, and it's time to stop this. All right. Secondly, we're going to be talking later about scheduling our first public hearings, and we're also going to name 2 committees. So we'll just put all of that further down the agenda in the appropriate time frame. But with that, let us call Mr. Moses Todd for his comments, please. Yes, and Lena's working with IT on the timer. So I also need to remind everybody to go ahead and turn your electronics off. The only reason I'm keeping this on is because I have to clock the timers until we get the system right. Hang on 1 second, Moses, so we don't short you here. Okay, and at the 4-minute mark, I'll give you 1, and then the 30-second, we'll go from there.
Moses Todd, 2749 Deansbridge Road, Augusta, Georgia, Olive, Augusta. Madam Chair and members, I'm going to make my comments very brief. One, it concerns me with a committee that's taken on something as serious as our local constitution is not sworn in or it's not taken an oath. And I understand in the charter, the mayor have the responsibility certainly of giving If you chose to do the oath, the chairman the oath, and the chairman could give everybody else the oath. So that's one concern. As a veteran, I'm concerned that we're not doing the Pledge of Allegiance at the beginning of the meetings. I know if we take a far left charter committee out in Washington State, they voted not to do the pledge, and I think that's a slap in the veterans' face. And we hope that these things are oversights versus than intentional. And the other concern that I have is public comment and town hall. Now, I don't care about your schedule as far as when you want to get this to the legislator, back to the commission, or whomever you're going to report to. But certainly, I care about town halls. So I think that if you're volunteering for this task, then certainly you should be available for a 6 to 7 town hall throughout the community at least once a month. I think that you're taking on a very serious task, and I appreciate, your brain trust in this. So those are my comments, and I think that question is important, so I'm gonna cut off and use my remainder time for a question or any questions.
The chair would like to ask you a question. We were discussing the concept of public meetings and felt it was most appropriate to try to have a public hearing as close in proximity to prior meetings as possible so that the public heard from the same sheet of music in a compressed timeline, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. In your experience, will that work?
I think that most my fellow veterans out on Fort Gordon that is part of this, government that votes in it, is on duty at this time, 10 in the morning. Most of my other friends that's not retired, that they're working. So I think if you're doing a public comment between 5 and 7 would be appropriate, yes.
Okay. Taken under advisement, that sounds good. To the rest of this body, I think the pledge and being sworn in is easily accommodated and certainly an excellent idea. So we will plan to do that at the next meeting when we have the protocol ready for that. And thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hassan, you are on deck.
Good morning to Madam Chair and to the body. First thing I'd like to say, I didn't anticipate saying this, but I do have concerns about your opening statement, not so much about whether you wanted to spend us time in and engage with us, but you made mention for the last couple of weeks, this body has spent about 20 hours. And that says, if that's the case, as I understood the statement, then there should have been open meetings, whether y'all did it by Zoom or whatever, however you conducted business, whatever business was conducted, the public had a right to know. Because this is supposed to be open meetings. That's based on the statement that you said,
I
as
think
I understood it.
excuse me, I think you misunderstood my point. People individually in their homes, not colluding with anybody, read materials, period.
Okay, it
Thank
sounded
you.
universal, but I appreciate the clarification. My real concern is also, when we go back to your letter, comment from last week, and that is about November versus May voting for this. As we know in Richmond County and probably across the country, your voting in November is extremely high compared to May. You're talking about creating a whole new government, for what I'm hearing you all say. And I think it's only fair that you all not get into what you know to be voter suppression, because the voting is low. I mean, everybody can go, but we know historically people doesn't go. And you all should want the most participation based on your recommendations to the commission around what you all have found. And I think to try to run this, that's not for me, I'm sure. And you all should be mindful of that, because we vote on our SPLOS in November. We voted on our new Coliseum November. We voted on our tier in November. We voted on our governor in November. We're talking about a whole new government here is what you all are looking at. And you all ought to be concerned about that and slow down and so you can do this correctly. Because most time goes back to what your opening statement. We don't know what you all know about the charter itself. We see changes that got to be made. You're going to change the language and everything. But in terms of you all understanding clearly from the public perspective, I would say, well, what do they know? And there's no way of gauging that. So I think that's a little unfair. Another thing, as you all know, I asked for the surveys. And that's because I had no idea, I don't remember being mentioned in the public that a surveys were being done. I could have missed that. If I did, I apologize. Once again, that's open meetings. All this information should be coming to us, to the public in general, and we should know every step, unless there's some kind of miscommunications. I know last week you took the liberty of putting a lot of things on record, but a lot of things had already been done and taken place, and so you all collected the surveys, but we knew nothing about a survey. And so I think those things, I think you need to be more mindful of that everything that you all do is for public disclosure. Thank you very much for your time.
For the record as well, I would like the general public to know that Mr. Hassan had possession of those surveys prior to this committee seeing and being able to read their own answers, because those surveys went to Athens and we had not had an opportunity to review them ourselves.
Madam Chair, can I say one thing to you?
No, please take your seat.
I just want to say that you should let them know that I asked for it. I requested when I found out about it.
They know.
Just had them.
They know. They know. All right, Ms. Bonner, we're going to handle the minutes, please. Everybody has reviewed the minutes? Are there any changes to the minutes? All right. Can I have a motion to accept? Okay, Lee Powell motioned and Ms. Barnhill Turnley seconded. All in favor, please cast your votes.
That motion carries. It's unanimous with Ms. Bacchus being absent from today's meeting.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And with that, we'll call the Carl Vinson Group for their presentation.
Thank you very much. Again, it is always a pleasure to be with you all. And I wanted to share some results that we had from the information that y'all provided us. And so just to make sure everybody's kind of on the same page, the committee members were asked to answer four questions about things that they would like to see changed in the charter, issues that they were concerned about, et cetera. And those were then collected in the public meeting last week, handed to us. We then took them back to Athens to analyze them. We did scan them in and gave them to the clerk in response to a records request that the chair received. And so that's how the kind of surveys you submitted were disseminated. One of the things that did come up is we were looking at this, and one of the things that we've suggested to the chair is that it was terrific to get the feedback from all of you, but it would also be good to make sure that the community feels like they have a chance to provide feedback as well. So we're in the process of designing a short survey that can be made available on the website or at the public forums, et cetera, so people have the opportunity to engage, and we can then get that information back to you in a structured way as well. So just wanted to make you aware that we are working on that to make sure that the public does have an open and engaged way to do that. And one of the things that triggered that for us was that we got some feedback from one of the other committee members that they had some feedback from some of their community partners that they wanted to share with us. And so that we realized in doing that it would be good to make sure that the broad community has an opportunity, not just a couple of individual groups. And so we're proceeding with that. So with the survey responses that you all provided, again, there were 4 questions. What specific portions of the charter should be changed? What changes could strengthen our local government's ability to efficiently deliver essential services? What does not need to be changed in the charter? And what are your greatest concerns about the charter review process? Now, as you can imagine, you all are individuals, and all of the responses are not uniform. But what I want to do is share some themes from you. So the first thing I want to do is just note that what we did is we took those surveys, we analyzed them, looking for themes and patterns. And what I'm going to present today are the set of themes that we've seen. We both looked at them by individual survey questions, as well as kind of quantifying across survey questions how the responses played out. Given that the numbers of individual surveys are so small, I'm not going to present necessarily classic descriptive statistics or anything of that nature. So this gives you some sense of the sub-themes that were mentioned. So issues around the mayor's authority were mentioned 47 different times. And again, not every comment around the mayor's authority was always the same. So you may have had one person saying, and we'll get to this, I think the mayor ought to have budgetary control. And you may have had another person saying, I think the mayor shouldn't have budgetary control. So both of those would have been noted as comments about the mayor's authority. And so the top 6 were issues: the mayor's authority, the commission structure, the role of the administrator, board appointments, departmental oversight, and public safety. The others are still kind of relevant and important for you to consider, but just wanted to highlight kind of those big picture issues. So on the issue related to the commission structure, for example, there were a number of folks that suggested changing the structure of the government, as well as altering the size of the commission. And so we had 3 people that wanted to reduce the number of commissioners, and we had a couple of people that wanted to increase the number of commissioners. So again, it's not as if everybody said gave the same answer. So part of that is that as we move forward on these issues, just make sure that we're remembering that we have different points of view, and what we want to do is make sure you're getting the information you need so that you can process the information in an accurate and fair way. We had people that wanted to eliminate super districts and people that wanted to keep super districts. What there was greater consensus on was the need for a clear policy on commission absences and vacancies as part of the charter, as well as just the broader notion of there should be some sort of change. But again, what that specific form is, there was not unanimity. Oops. On board appointments, a number of people recommended that we need more rules and procedures on those board appointments, specifically around term limits, issues of conflicts of interest, as well as increasing transparency in operations. And I think those issues of transparency are one that the committee has heard many times as you've spoken with people. The issue of department oversight was noted by several. Additional oversight, transparency, and communication from Augusta Richmond County departments was suggested. That includes the need for annual audits, increasing interdepartmental communication, consolidation of redundant departments. There's concern that there are multiple parts of the consolidated government that are doing the same thing, and we need to ferret those out. Just a couple of quotes on this. Clear interdepartmental communication is essential. The system should talk to each other. Include a provision requiring regular performance audits and financial reviews to ensure accountability and efficient resource use. I think most people that deal in public accounting, in governmental accounting, would definitely second that comment on the need for audits on a regular basis. The issue of public safety came up, and so there were concerns about the need for a more centralized and unified public safety arm of Augusta Richmond County, so centralized public safety under the sheriff's office, consolidate E911, the marshal's office, code enforcement, and others were duplicative. So that gives you some kind of broad sense of those themes. We're happy to share the kind of individual responses if that would be the preference. The chair now has a copy of those that we scanned in without any names, as we mentioned that we would do. So any questions, Madam Chair?
I don't, but perhaps another one of the members does. All right. Good job compiling them. And can we ask that this report be forwarded so that we can put it on the website as well?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Also, Rex, are you going to speak to the ongoing process of how this is going to unfold?
Sure, I'm happy to do that. So today, and the chair will walk you through this process. You received information on and what we have called anticipatory language in the charter. So this is when the charter was being ready to be passed. Things were said like, if Augusta and Richmond County consolidate, thus and such will happen. And so what we have done is we have gone through the process of reviewing all of those kinds of spaces, highlighted those, tracked those in a table that hopefully was easy for you to follow, so that you could then say, we no longer need that because that has already been done. The consolidation occurred, those departments have merged, et cetera, et cetera. And so that was kind of phase one. The next phase that we're looking at is doing that for areas in the charter that are essentially repeating state law or are preempted by state law. So there are several sections in the charter that simply quote either the Constitution or state laws. Now, some of those are state laws that have since been changed, and so we need to either remove it or update it. But in most cases, it doesn't necessarily need to be in the charter because it's already in state law, and state law preempts the local legislation. The next thing that we want to do after that is essentially use that. So one of the things that you have noticed is that there's a little bit of chaos in the way the charter is structured, and several of you have struggled through that as you've tried to read through the whole document. And it is Ms. Brill, who I want to note we're excusing her today. She has some medical procedures that she's going through. But as she noted in several meetings, that the Augusta Charter did not necessarily follow kind of standard charter practice in terms of the structure. So if you look at either the model city charter that comes from the National Civic League, or you look at the model city charter that GMA, the Georgia Municipal Association, has on their website, it doesn't kind of line up. And so what we are suggesting that we do is, as we kind of bundle this charter to make it more readable and accessible to people, to essentially take it in the order of that kind of broad set of outline that was presented, I think it was last time, and essentially take the pieces out of the charter that go in one of those sections, group those together, move them there, then allow you to have that conversation around each of those sections, so that we're going through it in a way that makes at least to some of us, more clear sense, and it's not quite as chaotic. And so that's the process that we will use after we've gone through these relatively straightforward issues that are either not needed because they were already done in the past and don't need to be said that they will be done again, or that they are duplicative of state law. So that's the kind of broad process that we're looking at helping you walk through that we've discussed with the chair.
Chair acknowledges Mr. Wimberly.
On your first, Madam Chairman, may I address? Okay. On your the survey, are you going to post just the themes, or are you going to post the entire surveys response?
So we are definitely sending the themes on because they've been, they're presented here. We always, everything that we present here, we share with the clerk so that we can get it up on the website. The individual documents, they have been requested through public record, and so I guess it's at the will of the committee on, if you'd like to have those posted, we're happy to do that, so.
I have no problem with that, Lonnie.
Okay.
Does anybody have any problem with that? Yeah.
Okay, and the next question, based off this, is you're talking about removing certain sections. Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna take it under the belief that y'all have done quite a few charter reviews.
Yes, sir.
So was some of this, when it was originally done, was these people uninformed, or was there a reason for them to put that in there?
So the stuff that we're dealing with today, there was a reason for it to be there 30 years ago.
Okay.
Because 30 years ago, you needed to say, this is a proposed charter so that if it's consolidated, then X and Y happen. Well, now that it has been consolidated, X and Y have already happened, and we don't need to have that in there any longer. So those parts were in there for a very purposeful reason. Now, there are issues, some of the things that we will tackle next time around the duplicativeness of state law. Those are much less common for us to find in charters. And so I'm not sure what the reason was for including them. I think there likely may have been a purpose. And some of it is they just wanted to re-emphasize some things. But I think if we have a clear document that notes that you are operating under the state of Georgia and the U.S. Constitution and the state's Constitution and the state's laws, that there's not a need to replicate the entire official code of Georgia annotated. So,
Well, I fully understand some of the language, and I read the document. It is hard to read. I fully understand the language in the consolidation piece where it had to address all of the stakeholders in this process. But when you get to the charter itself, like the salaries and all that, I question that, not for this board, but I questioned it before because there was a difference in what, for example, what the sheriff was making and what was stated there. And my understanding, that was a base salary that was in the charter, and that the base salary had to be there, but then you had to give them according to what the current salary is or were for them at the time.
And when you talk about compensation, that's actually one of the areas that we'll talk about a little bit later, but that raises one of the examples. That is something where having a general statement about compensation in the charter makes some sense, but if we put in a number, even if it is assumed that that's a base number, that's what some people will always go back to. And so it's better to have that set by ordinance, which makes it easier and more transparent to update it over time. And so those are some of the kinds of things that we will have additional conversations about as we move forward, because I think you're right. That's an example of one of the cases where I understand why it may have been said that it was $75,000 30 years ago, but that doesn't make any sense today. So.
Chair calls upon Mr. Coleman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I read over a lot of the stuff that y'all highlighted, and I agree 100% with a lot of stuff. And I just wanted to share this with my committee members. There's stuff in there like when we consolidated in '96 that the sheriff department, the sheriff would take over the Augusta Police Department, the fire chief from Augusta would take over be over the entire Richmond County for fire chief. A lot of that stuff, it should have been taken out a long time ago. And a lot of that stuff in there is the stuff that they highlighted that I see that's no longer necessary. And I thank y'all for doing that.
Well, we are glad you're appreciative. As you can imagine, it is a task, and we had three folks working on it for a substantial period of time to make sure that we were catching everything. Now, it is also entirely possible that we could have missed one of those pieces. As you noted, there are a number of pages and sections highlighted, and so if there was something that we missed, we're happy to come back to that at another time or visit it today at the chair's direction.
Very good. Are there any other comments? If not, is there a motion to approve deletion of these anticipatory language?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Charlie Coleman moved and Mr. Powell seconded. Okay. Madam Clerk, did you have a comment you need to make? No.
If I might note, these documents are ones that we will share with the clerk as well, so that they're publicly available, just to make sure that everybody's clear that those documents are being made available.
Excellent. So, Mr. Wimberly, do you have a comment before we vote?
Yes, Madam Chairman. Just to make sure what I'm voting on. You said to remove. So is this a red line process where we got the charter and we're removing certain things? And so everyone would know what we removed and what we're going to replace it with. Am I correct? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman.
Or Mr. Wimberly.
Mr. Wimberly. Okay, and I'm looking at Attorney Plunkett.
Madam Chair, for purposes of clarity and everything, what I think would be appropriate in the motion form is to direct the Institute to do this action and then to come back with either a red line version or something like that, so that that is before the body, and also the clerk can distribute it on the website so people could see what's being changed. Right now, it sounds like you are moving to have done this, but I don't know that there is an entirely accurate what was being removed. So I think if it would be my advice is to come back with a red line version. So you're directing them, the motion is to direct them to do it, and then you could distribute that out before the next meeting, then y'all could vote to approve it at that juncture. I recognize that y'all have seen it, potentially what they're suggesting, but the general population hasn't seen it. And I think you may be better served to do it that way.
Thank you, Attorney Plunkett. All right, Ms. Turnley.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Please.
Attorney Plunkett, can we use the document that they gave us with the anticipatory language, because it has the section, the page number, and exactly what should be taken out? Can we use that as the red line?
It could be. However, when you're producing it, you're going to be sure, you need to make sure that we have the original source document. So in other words, if it's going to be this book that's the Augusta Richmond County Charter produced by the Carl Vinson Institute, then we need to be sure that's it. So if it's either this document referencing a table of changes or alternatively a red line, but my suggestion is going forward that we have the official version, which would be arguably this version, so that we're able to do
If you
this.
hadn't received that, that's what they received with all the page numbers
Okay.
that reference that.
Okay, so but she was showing a schedule.
Yes.
Well,
And so
I think it's the same
that-
thing, just one's landscape and one's portrait, I think might be the biggest difference.
Well, what I was just handed was words and phrases. So,
Yeah, there you go, yeah. I
So what I'm
just didn't have that.
suggesting is that I would not vote on this until it is available to the general population to see what you are voting on, for transparency purposes. But to have directed them, but it's just my advice, but it is not, obviously you can go ahead and move forward with it.
Thank you, Attorney Plunkett. Chair acknowledges Ms. Robinson.
I think the people deserve context. So we need to do redlining instead of this, because even this is, yes, I can look it up and find it, but having it contextually available where people can see what the redlining is makes more sense, and that will lead to less questions being asked. So let's slow down and get this right,
You bet.
please.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Wimberly down there, okay.
And pretty much, Madam Chairman, all that I was thinking is being said is that with the red line, that's why I brought it up. The red line should be in the document that we're going to eventually vote on, so we'll know what we're voting on. And then at some point, that document, after we redline everything and we decided to agree to take it out, that becomes the new document.
Yes.
Okay, so that should be our ongoing adjustment to the document that we redline.
Thank you, Mr. Wimberly. Mr. Coleman, did you want to alter, to amend your motion?
Yes, ma'am. We just go ahead and follow the advice of the attorney.
All right, so we need to put that in the form of a motion. That's going to be a little challenging, but let's try. Rex, did you want to add anything before we did?
I just wanted to note that what we will do, just to facilitate things for you, essentially, I think having it highlighted makes it easiest to read. And so we will continue to produce a highlighted copy for your ease of reading. And so we will also then, in the charter document, have the red line sections, and we have that maybe even accessible on a computer here today, but and what we will do is we will change those highlights to red lines, and so that the kind of ongoing version of the charter will, so the public will have both access to the kind of the table that points in it, and you'll note that the highlighted version that you received maintains the same numbers as the pages in the charter document. We wanted to maintain that so that if anybody received it, they could easily go to it. So we will produce essentially a highlighted version for ease of accessibility, but we will then have the red line version for completeness of the entire document.
Excellent, excellent, excellent.
Madam Chair, if I may,
Please.
I think if we could request a motion to direct the Institute to redline by deletion or addition, the highlighted language, and to distribute that through the clerk and for final vote at the next committee meeting. I believe that might be sufficient if the maker of the motion would adopt that as their stated motion.
Mr. Coleman, does that meet with your approval and your intent?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Ms. Robinson.
So just to be clear on the redlining of the document and the continuation of the redlining on the document, when this is put to the public via our page, it will detail where these changes are each time?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just want to be clear. Thank you.
Thank you all. If there are no other comments, please cast your vote on the motion at hand, which is to request Carl Vinson to place red lines for ease of readability, along with the citations on the Excel spreadsheet, both, and then that will be, Madam Clerk, posted to our website. All right. All in favor, cast your votes. Just cast your votes, period.
It's unanimous.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Dr. Facer and team, who also have been working 20 hours between meetings on those documents. It's a lot of very legalese reading. All right, if we can move on to the next thing, there is some confusion in the public about how to access our information, and I would like to go ahead and tell everybody the easy way to break into it. www.augustag.gov/ CRC. And what you'll find is what Ms. Bonner and Mr. Lewis put together that did a fine job of giving you subcategories to find information. We are probably going to bury that website with documents in the interest of sharing everything with the public and invite their participation, very much so. All right, so we have a number of things to wade through yet. I'm going to need a motion to do this next one because it was not on the agenda. We got a little trigger happy with getting the agenda out. You all received copies of the bylaws. There were two separate documents, bylaws, and then procedures. Is that it, Lena, the whole package? Oh, my Lord, sister, you are so ahead of the ball game. Thank you for doing that. I want to hang on to this for Angela. Okay, good. Okay. We'll handle that after the meeting, I think, then, huh, the grammatical? Yes. All right. Mr. Wimberly.
Madam Chairman, we're getting a lot of documents, so could we get a binder to put this stuff in? Because I think one of the last documents that I received was over 100 and some pages. And if I'm gonna be referring to it, I definitely don't necessarily want to be sitting in front of the computer to do it. So if I could subject line each of the
Okay, very good.
document we get.
So in other words,
but I
going
need something
forward,
to put it in.
kind of a headline where you file it and you can refer back to it?
No, I need a binder.
Binder.
I'll afford the paper to print it. I just need a binder.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you right now, I got a 3-inch one and I'm getting ready to outgrow it in the first 5 meetings. So not realistic to ask you to schlep around a 10-inch binder, but we might might need several binders. Okay. So, do we have any comments or requests about the bylaws and the procedures, both documents? If this body has taken a look at them and are in agreement with it and have comments, this is the time. Otherwise, Chair acknowledges Mr. Coleman.
Under section 1.08.5, I just need, yes, I just need a definition on letter D when it talks about immediate family. I'd like a definition of what is the immediate family.
Sir, can you restate the section, please?
108.05.
Mr. Plunkett, can you address this question?
Madam Chair, basically this is, what I did is use the procedures from 2022 for the Augusta Commission and kind of use those as the guide. And there were some things that we removed, and basically it would be things like things going through committees and things of that nature, since that's not how we proceed here. But immediate family is you, your spouse, your children, is typically the way we'd be looking at it there, or an in-law, like a son-in-law, brother-in-law kind of issue there. I shouldn't say brother-in-law, but it would be your immediate family, be your children, their spouses, your grandchildren, or your spouse is typically what we refer to as an immediate family. And so what the idea is under this is if someone is speaking and there's an interest, and it would be highly unlikely that it would come up in this situation, but there was some discussion about consolidating certain departments. And if somebody was speaking on that and they had, someone came in and said, we should consolidate several committees or, departments, and it would be of interest to know that the person had a somewhat vested interest of why they're recommending that. And so where the person may come in and speak and is not employed by Augusta, but their husband or wife is employed, you might want to know that, why they're kind of biased in that regard. So what we're just trying to do is any type of potential bias of the speaker, that you're aware of that. It more truthfully is more toward a financial interest, that type of language, and that's not applicable here. But again, it's just to understand why someone is speaking on that if there's an interest in it.
Thank you, Attorney Plunkett. All right, I have, let's see, Mr. Wimberly.
We're working on it.
We're working on it.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, hon.
Since we're working on the charter for Augusta, and right now that has not changed, and so everything we're working on should be in according to that language. And so to say who is immediate family should be based off what Augusta has established at this time. So all you got to do is add that to this document, and then we'll know exactly what the immediate family are. Recommendation.
Thank you. Mr. Plunkett, there is not a problem with that, is it, to go ahead and flesh it out?
This is a direct quote from Rules of Procedure. So that was not something, so I was just giving you kind of a definition of what someone referred to as an immediate family would be.
Okay.
I do draw your attention that paragraph 106, the version that I have does not have the deadlines.
Yes.
So I think that it would probably be inappropriate to vote to approve these today, but everyone could accept it as information, and then I could get with the clerk and we could come up with the dates for approval next hour or the next meeting. And if the desire is, I would be more than happy to provide a copy of the source document, which is just a copy of the rules of procedure in case anybody wants to see what it was, how it was changed, or I shouldn't say changed, modified so that it was more applicable for this. And I can also provide basically a statute that refers to immediate family, if that would be a benefit.
That would. And also, committee, Ms. Bonner and I had a conversation yesterday about what is possible given all the things that her office is juggling, and I think we settled up on, I just haven't had a conversation with Ms. Bonner about it since. We settled up with noon the prior Friday for agenda additions and so forth. It does not really fall to us as much as it does to Ms. Bonner, so I didn't know if she was prepared to think that was what we had recommended.
Madam Chair, the request to appear before the committee Friday at noon would be sufficient. The fact that at that point you and your vice chair could submit the proposed agenda and allow those that have requested to appear to be placed on the agenda before it's made public, before the publication. So that timeline would work.
And that was Friday noon prior to the Thursday across the board on all these blanks. So does everybody understand that? We set a uniform time such that the clerk's office has enough time to get everything together and aligned before it goes out to the public as information. It's kind of a perfunctory thing. All right.
No, we're really giving public notice.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Mr. Cole.
Madam Chair, are you referring to 1.06?
Yes.
Regular meeting agenda?
Yes.
Madam Chair, and I believe it's also 1.08.03.
Yes.
Regarding public
The following
participation.
page, public participation in meetings. Ms. Bonner, we aligned all of those dates, was that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So noon Friday prior to 6 days before the meeting. All right, any comments on that? We have Ms. Robinson.
I see in 1.0802, the 5 minutes is highlighted. So I'm assuming there is request to be some adjustment there.
It depends. This group debates, last meeting, we would have had 3 speakers at 5 minutes apiece. Should have been 15 minutes, and it went an hour and a half. Part of that is because the chair did not understand she had the ability to limit things. But that is for this commission to decide. That's all of our decision.
I would like to make a recommendation for 3 minutes,
Okay.
to be honest, because as we get further into this thing, we're going to have more people speak, and 5 minutes will be here all day.
That's
So
right.
3 minutes, I think, is a great way. It's enough where people can prepare what they want to say ahead of time, get to the point, so we can answer questions and do the people's business.
Very good. Can you put that in the form of a motion then?
Sure. I motion that we reduce section 1.0802 for public participation from 5 minutes to 3 minutes.
Okay, second? Okay. Ms. Bonner, Ms. Robinson made the motion. Mr. Cole seconded. Any comments? If not, let's cast our votes.
That motion carries 9-1, with
Thank you.
Mr. Wembley voting no.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Bonner. What is the will of this committee? Do you want to put the bylaws and policies procedures to rest, or do you want to give it 2 weeks to post them and so forth? Okay, we have Mr. Wimberly.
Well, my first comment is that if we know what I need to be reading, I need to get it earlier than I'm getting it. That's my first comment.
Yep.
As I said, one of those documents was 180-some pages.
Yes, that's right.
This right here was 18 pages, and all of it is in small font. So my first thought then is, let's get this out in a timely manner so we can review. Because I think in the statement, if I read it correctly in the email, it said that we wasn't expected to read the whole thing. Well, you sent it to me. I may be
I want you to
mistaken
read
when I
everything.
read it.
Yeah.
But for me to read it and say, I read it, and then come in here and say, I'm ready to vote on it without any discussion, I'm only voting on my understanding. I'm not voting on the body understanding. And so I might need some guidance in the sense that a discussion to say what it is that we're really trying to do. And I'm not sure well, I just leave it at that. I just need it earlier.
So do you want to defer voting on this today, or would you?
Yes.
All right, put it in the form of a motion then, please.
I move that we defer voting on this document until individual has
June
more
12th.
time to
Yeah.
study it. Thank you.
So, okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. I know, and Carl Vinson will tell you, the next 2 weeks you can expect modules. The hope is that we will dispatch with what I consider to be simple language that doesn't belong in the charter. But it's difficult reading. I would agree with that too. So I would try to lay away some time to go ahead and take care of that. Once we put bylaws and procedures to rest, they don't have to be revisited unless we want to change them. So we're delighted to put that on the next agenda. And just know that a little bit later in the agenda, we're going to be appointing committees, and the level of work that's going to be involved in that time commitment is probably going to go through the ceiling pretty quickly. So just don't want to run anybody off, just want to keep you in the loop on this. All right, so the motion has been made by Mr. Wimberly and seconded by Ms. Robinson to defer voting on this and placing it on the June 12th agenda. Any additional conversation here? If not, please cast your votes.
That motion carries 7-3, with Mr. Clarence Powell voting no, Mr. Charlie Coleman voting no, and Mr. Steve Fushi voting no.
Okay, thank you all. Let us shift our attention to public hearings. Mr. Cole, did you have a question? Sorry. Okay. The reason we have not scheduled public hearings to date is that we're still arguing over the foundation, which is being poured, and we can't really get to issues that we will vote on until we've actually taken up an issue. So there's no attempt at subterfuge here. That being the case, I think it is safe to say that late June, early July, we are in a position to go ahead and schedule public hearings. And so it has been recommended that we select 3 areas, the Beasley Room, Diamond Lakes, and Warren Road, to schedule public hearings in fairly tight configurations such that the public then can hear the same thing every time. So what I really need from this body is a calendar check. If you would, while we're looking at this, if you guys would see what's possible on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday format, and make every effort to go ahead and isolate some dates. We don't have to do it right this second. Take a look at your commitments. I don't think we want to do it, we could do it the week we have a meeting. It's possible to do it, but I just want to have everybody take a look at your calendars, because that's going to be a big time commitment too. All right. If there is no other business to be transacted, oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Sheffy?
Yes, let's be conscious of Wednesdays as typical Bible study for most folks worship. So Tuesdays and Thursdays I think we should look at most.
So let's talk about what's, in Mondays are, we might have to do Monday, Tuesday, Thursdays then. Yeah. Okay, for the same reason. Same reason, different day. All right, so we think Monday, Tuesdays, Thursdays. Anybody else have blackout dates that we need to be aware of?
Madam Chair, if I may, I'm not sure if someone from the clerk's office be present or alternatively, IT or AV. Do keep in mind that Tuesdays are commission and committee meetings for the general commission, and depending on the length of those meetings, there may be a conflict with people to be able to be there. So who needs to be present for those meetings? Or I wasn't aware that I had to involve more people besides the committee. You would need to have it really just needs to have a chair or a vice chair there to call the meeting to order. It's not necessary for all the members to be there. It obviously is beneficial if they're there. But oftentimes you want to have a microphone or speaker, someone maybe to take information down. And so usually it's someone from IT that's there, I believe, for the speaker issues in terms of that. And so it's not a lot of folks, but it's just hard for them to sometimes get from. And typically someone from the law department's there and they may be engaged. So I think everybody will make a Tuesday work if necessary, but just kind of being cognitive of that is a potential issue.
Yes. Good to
know. So, but it's really just, it's 2 or 3 people from the county would need to be there. IT law. For your sakes, I hope you don't have to be on triple time duty. That would be horrendous. All right, thank you for that.
Does anybody else, Mr. Coleman?
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to basically ask if the consideration be given to people that want to come speak at these events and some of us that still are working. Those meetings be done as late as possible,
So 5 to 7?
so the public can make it in time
Okay.
and address any issues. Thank you.
5 to 7 or 6 to 8?
I'm thinking 6 or 7 start time.
It's past my bedtime.
6 o'clock.
All right, Mr. Powell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Having attended some of these public meetings previously, I think probably at least 6 or possibly 7, because that gives people, if you work and you get off at 5 o'clock, gives you a chance to go home and then bring whatever ammunition you want to bring to the meeting. So that would be my suggestion.
All right, thank you very much. There he goes. So, Ms. Bonner, who is so on top of everything all the time, there was a request from the clerk's office because of a conflict on Thursday, June 26th. The Augusta Richmond County Commission is going to meet on that Thursday, which is bumping our meeting a day backwards to June 25th. It's important for you to make that calendar change so you don't show up in time to see the commission meeting. And otherwise, every other meeting that I'm aware of is not affected. Ms. Bonner?
I was just going to say, the commission is holding a public hearing on upcoming budget, so you're all welcome to come.
Thank you.
To attend.
Thank you. Tongue in cheek. Ms. Robinson?
With the proposed locations, we may need to not be rigid with the timing of those. Because say Diamond Lakes is pretty far out, but if folks work in the city and have to get to Diamond Lakes by 6 o'clock, it's almost impossible to do that. So I think depending on where the location is, we may need to adjust time,
Okay.
Possibly to 7.
Okay. Ms. Turnley?
Madam Chair, I think we need to have a standardized time. If it's going to be at 6, it needs to be at 6 for everything. If it's going to be at 7, it needs to be at 7 for everything. If not, it's going to cause confusion, unnecessary confusion. So whether it's 6, 7, 8, whatever, I think it needs to be a uniform time, a uniform beginning and a uniform ending. If not, we could be there all night. I think we need to put some time parameters on it.
So does 6 to 8:30 sound better?
6:30 to 8:30?
2 hours? 6:30 to 8:30? Mr. Wimberly?
And I understand what Ms. Robinson's concerned, but the purpose of having it in 3 locations is to allow people to have to travel the less distance to get to one of the close locations. And each one of the town halls that we hold should be covering the same subject. So therefore, we're giving it to the different location the same subject material. So we're not briefing one side of town on one thing, another side of town on another one. And so if you break them up into those 3 locations, you're normally going to be okay with travel to get to the site. And those 3 locations has been proven to be sites that could draw a pretty good crowd. And 6 to 8 is a good time.
Say that again. I'm sorry, I missed that.
6 p.m. to 8 p.m. is a good time.
Okay. All right. Ms. Robinson?
As long as we clarify that for the people, that the information is going to be the same each time, because if somebody sees Diamond Lakes, they're like, oh, well, I don't live in Diamond Lakes. Why would I go to that one? Even though that may be the one that works for the time and the date that is feasible. So as long as we're transparent and making sure the public knows the information is going to be the same, it's not set up by your location, I think that should be fine. I'm still sticking with 6:30 to 8:30 though. Thank you.
Thank you, hon. Thank you, thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
Part of the reason why we have staff members there is we also try to stream these public hearings. And as to Ms. Robinson's point and Mr. Wembley's point, we may have the initial program may be set, so you'll be doing the same information, but oftentimes, particularly when we did the stuff with the floating homestead, two things happened. Sometimes it became obvious that there were certain questions that were not answered at the first material, so sometimes the program may be slightly altered. That's why we stream it. And also sometimes the questions that may be asked may generate different discussions than another part of town. And to be quite honest with you, during we did the 581, we had many people that attended all three. And so while we think of it as regional, while we do it that it may be that someone works on the west side of town and lives on the south side of town, and they pick which is more in that regard. But we do try to stream it so that people have the ability to see it.
Very good, very good. All right, if you each would sometime in the next couple days, shoot me what works in your calendars, and then we'll be able to kind of block out things. And I think it's wise to do Monday, Tuesday, Thursday then, so that we don't get into, agree with, well, but Wednesday's hitting Bible study classes.
Amen.
Tuesday gets to be a problem because of commission and committee meetings, so it's going to be a tough one to call one way or the other. Chair calls on Ms. Ginger.
Well, that was my question to Mr. Plunkett. Would 6 o'clock or 6:30 be better for the commission or whoever has to come to the meetings?
My recollection is that when we did House Bill 581, we were at 6 o'clock. We serve, the county serves at y'all's pleasure to help y'all out. So if y'all want to do 6 o'clock, I'm sure that there's enough depth in, the IT area that if we need to be there, someone can make themselves available. It's just as a practical observation, Tuesdays are one of those issues, similar that Wednesday is oftentimes taken. But the other thing we need to think about is that it may not be able to be, I think you were talking about 3 different days. It may not be able to be all Mondays or something like that, because you are looking at recreational facilities, and you're also looking at recreational facilities during the summertime. So there could be some conflicts. Obviously, the one downtown is a little bit easier to deal with, but just recognizing that. So even though the time may be set at 6 or 6:30, the day of the week may have to be floating based on availability of the facilities.
Important question. All right, the last item under new business that I had today was we are going to name 2 committees today. Ms. Bonner, are you the one we schedule space for these meetings in?
If you're planning to hold them here in the municipal building, yes, ma'am.
Well, but so far it sounds like we pretty much have to. Are we able to book churches if that's closer to the committee, that kind of thing? Mr. Plunkett.
It is much easier to do here. It's truthfully easier to do it in either this room, or I believe we have some technology down the hallway, because again, the committee meetings are open meetings. And so if you're trying to stream these, you're setting up a whole new, and voting and all the other things that go along. Although the committee, the committee may vote, it may just make recommendations. To the extent this room is available, I think you would find that it's easier on staff to do it in this room, but we could.
We would,
possibly do
we
it on
would
a different room
strongly
in this
prefer
hall.
the smaller conference room because it's very difficult from a design standpoint when you have this many people. It's like I can barely see, I can't tell if the light down there looking down the line. I know I can see it here, but it's telling me, their council commissioner instead of their names.
Well, if y'all can come up with a date and time that tends to work for committees, I think Ms. Bonner, I'm speaking for her, but I think she and I can work with the IT people to see if other spaces are available. Also keeping in mind that those rooms are also used during the week for other things.
You bet.
This room is oftentimes not used except for more official undertakings.
Right.
So we'll try to accommodate, subject to all the technological issues that we have to.
And the availability.
Availability.
So if you could just send us a proposed list with your dates, we'll try to check to see if the space would be available. Keep in mind, your committee meetings will be public meetings as well.
Yep.
So that the public is invited to attend. So with this large group, plus public, plus staff,
I think it's going to
just
be
keep that
committee.
in consideration.
It's going to go back to the old way of doing things because we've got to trust each other enough to tackle some of the bigger issues. All right, the Finance Committee, both committees being appointed today are extremely important committees. The Finance Committee will be charged at looking at how tax monies are spent, fees that are levied, stormwater, audits, insurances, lots of things.
You have that written down, ma'am?
I'll get it to you afterwards, though. No worries.
Okay.
That committee is going to be chaired by Lee Powell. Vice Chair is Tanya Barnhill. Marvin Cole, Angela Backus, and Charlie Coleman. The form of government is the second committee we're going to appoint today. This, too, is an incredibly important decision because if we are to move on to substantive issues, that question needs to be answered fairly early on. And I have spoken with everyone that we want to appoint to this, and they have all accepted. So the chair will be Steve Fouché. Lonnie Wimberly is going to be the vice chair. Virginia Cody, Rod Pearson, and Sheffy Robinson are going to be on that committee. Anybody have any questions or comments? Okay. So you make your calendar change for the January 26th to 25th meeting. If you all would reach out to your chairs and vice chairs to let them know what times work in your busy schedules to handle this in between all the reading and the travel times involved, that would be very helpful. And then I will get to work with Ms. Bonner on what will work date and time-wise, and we'll see what we can do about setting up rooms so that can be published. Dr. Facer, a question for your team. By the time we meet next on June 12th,
our goal is to have, two things will be ready for you, right? The first is the redlining of the information that was done today. We'll actually have that to you very shortly. The second is the state duplicative language. We are working on that. We've made some progress. We're hoping to have it finished, hopefully by the end of next week. But if we can have it before that, we will get it to you before that.
all right. And there are 4 other categories that are a little more nebulous, going to require some additional fleshing out. When may we expect those?
I don't have a good answer on that yet. Some of it is as Ms. Brill gets back with us, I'll have a better
Excellent.
sense. But she has committed to working from home this next week to make sure that even in her recovery, we don't lose any steps. So,
well, please send her our best wishes and hope everything went well, and please let us know about that as well.
you bet we will do.
Thank you. All right, is there any other business to come before this body today? If not, we stand adjourned. Thank you.